Graham, good to see you again.
Jamie.
A free week, so to speak, for you with no midweek game for the first time in a good long while. How's it been for you? How have you looked to use this week on the training field?
We give the players an extra day to recover after the weekend, so that was already planned. We had a little behind closed doors game yesterday for the lads who haven't played a lot of minutes and a lot of games. I know it seems weird putting a game in, but it was only 3 or 4 the senior pros that were playing that. It was mainly academy players, but it was just important for players to pick up some valuable game time. And then today and yesterday we've analysed where we've done really well so far, and then just a little bit of feedback on where we could improve from last week, really. But kept it straight to the point and got out on the pitch.
Do you, when you've got this free week, so to speak, do you take stock and look at the season's work so far as a whole, or do you focus just on Saturday's game against Doncaster?
No, the group of games so far, really. I think it's important we try to dissect the individual performance and give a little bit of feedback, but it's always in context of what we've done generally, and certainly after a period of a midweek game for maybe 5 weeks on the bounce. I think it was the first opportunity really for us to feedback on what we've done so far in the first 10 games, and so there's a lot of positive stuff, as you'd expect from that, because the team's been in great form.
Yeah, and in terms of that behind closed doors game, did you get out of it what you wanted, and those players that needed to get the minutes, did they come through okay? Yeah.
It was Cookie, Lewis, Tom McIntyre, who's just joined us, so he had a little bit longer. So it was just as we spoke about last week with Cookie in particular, there was limited amount of time to get him into 11v11, so the game was sort of arranged around those types of players. So it was a really worthwhile exercise. The players got out exactly what we'd planned for them to get out, and then they've trained again today. So it was it's been a good week so far.
It would be remiss of me to not ask in terms of their availability going into Saturday's game, particularly that of Andy Cook. What is the likelihood of that?
We just have to, like I've said before on previous players returning from injury, how do they recover? How do they feel the next day? I haven't had that conversation with Bobby as yet, because it was only yesterday and then we've trained again today. So it'll be something we sit down this afternoon and assess for the weekend. But I still think there's more to be done, more boxes to tick. But it's another positive week forward from his last appearance against Grimsby.
Appreciate we're midway through the week, but one word that came up when we spoke to you after the game, and the same from your captain Max as well, was that word response after Saturday, and wanting to see that not just this coming Saturday, but actually on the training ground in the working week. Have you seen that response that you were looking for from the players?
All I wanted to see was normality. Really, it wasn't like then go overboard and show that we're raving maniacs that are hungry for blood or anything like that. It was just making sure that we were back on the horse, back to work, determined to improve, and that's what I've seen from the players so far. So I'm not into big responses. Ultimately, it was, I believe, one half of a game out of a series of 10 games where we've won a lot and played really well and showed some great attributes. We just got really punished for it, that 45-minute spell. So it's important that we have context around our performances, our overall picture, and I'm delighted where the team are so far. But it was what I saw yesterday when we came back in for the first day was back to normal. And that pleased me more than anything.
In terms of individuals again, Matthew Pennington and Neil Byrne, how are they on their development, maybe going into Saturday?
Well, Penno played some of the game yesterday, so he played half of the game, which was planned. We believe it's a bit too early for Byrne because he'd only trained with us on Friday, so it was too big a jump, considering the amount of time he's been out. So he trained today with us, but it'll be, I don't know, maybe another 10 days before he's in a position where we feel comfortable he's available to play. So, but Penno came through the game so far, well so far. So we'll get to Friday and see who's available to train and pick the team from there.
I wanted to ask you about Tommy Lee, given that we've spoken to him today prior to speaking to yourself. And obviously we asked you about Tommy earlier in the season in regards to that position change and, pretty honest conversation that you had with him and continued conversation through pre-season as well. Have you seen a change in Tommy in terms of his character on the field and also his application into this role?
I have. I think I've seen it from perspective of he feels like he has a genuine part to play and he's not just a stopgap here and there and we're trying to discover where he's best for us. I think he sees a challenge because there's 4 really good players for those positions, but he can get his teeth into that every single day, which is good for him. He's got a focus that he can really concentrate on how he can improve his game, how he can be more consistent. So there's still elements that he has to improve, which we all have as players and as coaching staff. But for me, he's shown the right attitude, the right sort of commitment, but he's still not where I believe he can be in a whole level. And I think he's got really good, strong attributes for any team at this level. But I just feel he's made good progress so far, but he's not at the end of the journey by a long shot. There's still more to come from him. But I see that in all the individuals. I always want them chasing improvement because I think we can all improve as we go along. I think it's important that the players invest their time and energy in that as well, not just wait for the coaches to feedback, that they try and find answers for questions they might have. And Tommy's come a long way, I believe, in a short period of time. So hopefully that progress will continue.
He was very honest with us in his own appraisal of his work so far in the central midfield role. He said that if he sees a chance, he'll go for it in an attacking sense, but he acknowledges the fact that he has work to do in his defensive area of his game. Do you like that, I suppose, self-accountability for one, but in terms of Tommy more individually, that if he sees an opportunity, he'll take that risk, he'll go for that pass if it's on? Yeah,
well, he has the attributes to do it. He has the passing range. He has the quality within his technique to hit any pass that the team requires. And I believe he can offer a bigger goal threat than he has done, because he can definitely score goals. On the defensive side of it, it's not a natural side of the game for him, so he has to focus on that. But I do like that he's self-aware. He's given himself some credit about what he can do. But he's also honest about the things that he has to improve on. I think that if every player and person has that in their locker, that they don't demean themselves too much, that everything's got to improve, that they do value what qualities they have, but they also understand that they're not perfect and there's things I can do better. I think that's a good place for a player to be. And I think you can continue that all the way through your career, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think you can always be striving to polish off little bits and pieces, but also understand what you bring to a team, and then really sort of commit to that as well. You got to understand why you're in a team, why the manager picks you, why your teammates think you're a good player, and then make sure you showcase those. And we do give the license for all our players to play with that sort of that commitment to playing an attacking type of football.
Yeah. Next game for you, Huddersfield Town at home. A big game for the football club, a big game for the fans, one that I think many supporters were looking for when the fixtures were released in the off-season. As a manager of this group, do you have to put any more particular focus on managing the emotion of the players? Because it does feel like such a big game externally anyway.
Not particularly. Well, I think we have to be aware of the challenge of the quality of the team that's coming to Valley Parade, but we've been playing lots of big games, certainly at Valley Parade over a good amount of time, certainly in front of big crowds, big atmospheres, big pressure games, the last game of the season, for instance. And the start of this season playing against big clubs with high expectation, I think the players have handled themselves really well. So for me, I think the only thing we've got to continue to be is us, the best version of us. That was my only disappointment from last week. We weren't the best version of us by a long shot in the first half. By then the game would become a different scenario, a different challenge. But I like to keep the game quite simple for the players, that actually just concentrate on the basics.
Yeah.
And I think it's the easiest way to focus on what's important. And what's important is your performance for the team. So we don't tend to spend a lot of time talking about anything else apart from that, really, because I think it's a personal preference for me, to be honest, because that's how I prefer to be prepared for a game, just about the game that was in hand, not what it meant in the big scheme of things and all that sort of thing. I think the atmosphere will sort of give you an idea of what it is. But I think our atmosphere at Valley Parade has been superb anyway for a long time. So it might not be that different to what the players have experienced before in a general term.
Yeah.
But we'll be playing against another really good opponent.
I wanted to ask you about how you as a player found the week leading up to a derby. And I know you were involved in many, just how you found that as a player.
Probably, I don't know, first 5, 6, 7 years of it, maybe whipping myself up into a frenzy to show how much I cared for my club and and give the fans something that and all that sort of thing. And as time went on and I experienced many different ones, it was just about the game, it was about the result, and everything else be determined by other people and let them talk about the other stuff. And I just broke it down, and I just did that in every game after that period, and I just found it gave me a peace, building up to a game. I felt comfortable when the kick-off happened, that I knew what was expected of me. But sometimes there was games, it didn't have to be a derby game, that you get caught up in the emotion of it and you lose your temper, you get angry, or you're a bit down. That can happen in every game of football. I think if you have the same motivation to win, which I would love to believe every one of my players has that every day anyway, and it's what I've seen in training this week, that there's a determination to show ourselves in a better light than we did the last time out, and that's as far as our sort of motivation goes at the moment.
What have you made? I know you put very much focus on your own team, rightly so, but what have you made of Huddersfield Town and what they've done this season, and financially backed, a manager who I think you were a former teammate of as well in Lee Grant as well, the job that they've done so far?
I'll be honest, I haven't looked so much from the weekend previous. I've been looking more at our performance and how we can speak to individuals, feedback, analysis, improve our performance. I'll start looking at the opponent now in earnest, but look, I'm really pleased for Granty to get this opportunity. He's been a highly thought of coach in his previous roles. I played with him at Burnley the year after the Premier League, so I thought he was always a really good guy, conscientious, trained well, proper professional, and I think he's took that into his in his coaching career. So, I couldn't give you a full scale sort of remit on what they've done so far, because my focus has been my team. Okay, mate.
You've always said that you prefer to concentrate on your own team than look at the opposition, but to what extent do you have to look at how they've been playing, the formation they've been playing, and how it could impact on the formation you prefer to play?
No, look, I think just to clarify, I do look at the opponent. I do analyse them. I do a lot of work with the analysis guys, the other coaches. I just pick bits and pieces to feed back to our team, and it's very, very small, to be honest, because I think look, if we don't perform to our best, and we're always trying to improve, and there's always something to get better at, and I believe if we bring our A game more often than not, and we defend and play in a way where it's irrespective of the opposition's sort of formations, because there's a lot made of formations, and you could pause a video on 1 minute and it looks like this, and then 1 minute 10 it looks slightly different, because there's so many rotations, and a minute 20 it's a different shape. So I think you can get hung up on that. I think it's just their general style of play, how they want to attack. Can you disrupt that? Can you make them play in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable? But our in possession stuff is how we play. So I believe when we are at it, even if the opponent knows what we're going to be doing, it's very difficult to stop anyway. That's how I see it. And if we focus on ourselves more often than not, I think we can provide that consistency what we need. If we're constantly talking about a different opponent every 3 days and focusing on the opponent, how can we have consistency in our mind about our performance and what we need to do? And it's just my preferred way of working. I think the players prefer to think about themselves and analyse themselves and get better. But I always show full respect to an opponent, and we get great information back. I read through so many documents and watch several parts of games to understand what's coming our way. But we've seen it in the past. Teams can change. I don't think Doncaster play in the way that they'd played in their previous 5-6 games. So I'll try not to go overboard on what the opponent's doing and focus on us. That's all it is. But I can assure you, I do work in a modern way.
And you've said it again today, that you want your players to continue learning and improving, and you want your staff, including yourself, to continue learning and improving. How do you measure yourself then as the person in charge of it all, really?
I don't know. Well, look, first and foremost, results. Because ultimately we're in a results-based business or results-based sport, and the results will give you a general overview of how successful you've been, because ultimately that's my job, and I take my responsibilities seriously, and I understand them. So there's results orientated, but I would like to think of how we improve individuals, how we outperform what we are. I think what players go from before to when you're working with them, all those sort of things, your relationships, how people can come and sit in your office and talk to you about different things, all those sort of things. I've seen a difference in how open I can be with players, where I probably wasn't. Well, in fact, I know I wasn't quite a few years ago. But I think that's my way of probably getting older. I don't know, people talk about that, maturing and stuff, and understanding and having more empathy for people. But I think if I look at the players, they're a different generation to me, and I have to manage in a way that they feel comfortable with and gets the best out of them. It's that's ultimately what I have to do. I'm managing other people, I'm helping other people. I have to think how they think in some capacity. So we always have to stay ahead. If you want to stay in any sort of business job, you have to roll with the improvements and how things change, and everything changes. You guys will tell me more than anything. Your role has changed so much over the last 10, 15 years, but you've had to get with the game and understand what's coming next, and that's what we do as managers if you want to stay in it long term. Okay, mate.
Graham, you talked the other day about playing in derbies early on, about sometimes it could, when you were younger, perhaps pass you by a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of experience in this dressing room, in this squad. Presumably, there's on the same point, there must be a lot of derby experience in there. So that's going to help in this sort of frenzied atmosphere, isn't it?
I would like to think so, because sometimes players will hold on to bad experiences as well, and that can be a negative. It depends how you manage that experience that you've had. Do you think about the good experiences or bad ones? So experience can be a double-edged sword, really, and I think it's important. We always try to support our players in thinking positively about things and understanding, putting things in context and understanding that things that didn't work for you in the past could still work for you now. It's just a moment in time, that can change any outcome. So but this is what I'm trying to put forward is it is another game. It's not. It's still going to be the beauty of this sport for me anyway. We've just been talking about change over the years, and in all aspects, it's still 2 goals, it's still 22 players, it's still 1 ball. So there's a lot of other stuff that changes, but the actual basic principles of football are quite. You still need to score more than the opponent to get the points. So I try to focus on all the consistencies that are around football, and if we focus on them, I don't think we get distracted by other things, because it can be a distraction. I say that in the best way. It's something you don't really have to think about as a player, because I think your motivation to win should be constant and should be full, and I think the supporters would expect us to be like that as well. So if anyone comes out and say, we tried hard against Huddersfield, if I was a supporter, I'd be going, well, do you not try hard last week? You know what I mean? So for me, every time we put on a shirt, we're at our best, and that's how I want my players to perform, and in general, that's what they do.
And as you say, you said earlier about the number of big games this team's had at Valley Parade.
Yeah.
From about March onwards last season
Yeah.
and start this season. I mean, that's useful in the bank, isn't it? Because people have shown they can cope with, the noise, the full house, and that expectation, going into these sort of occasions.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can build up a bank of confidence from that we've played so many big games, and certainly at Valley Parade, and come out on top and performed really well and won the game. I think that's how you build up that bank of, we're a good team, I'm a good player, he's a good teammate, and I think that's how you go into games confident. But you've got to also balance out with things happening in games that could dent that. But you have to just park it to one side and focus on the next action. I don't think that we particularly did that well last week after the second goal. I thought there was a few signs that we let it affect us too much, and so that's something for us all to learn from it. And we have to remember we are a new team in general terms, and the progress we made in a short space of time has been really good. But there's going to be bumps along the way. But it's how we learn from those, get better, and I believe those previous games that we've had, many of them big games, how we've performed will give us good confidence knowing that we can maintain it in any game of football.
And also, you must sense there's a pride within the dressing room, not just the new players, but obviously the older players who've been there a bit longer. The fact that this team have got used to no one beats them at Valley Parade almost, it's become that sort of sense of, not expectation, but that confidence that they can go out there and take whoever comes on. We're playing at Valley Parade, our record here is very good. If we play like we can do here, we're going to give you a very good game. Yeah,
I think there's a good point in there, but it doesn't guarantee that we win the next game. What guarantees a performance, you can never guarantee a result, but what you've got to do is get your performance as high as possible. You've got to maintain what you've done in the past. I think there'll be scenarios in the game which we might recognise from other games in the past at Valley Parade and manage it in a good way or a better way. But look, we have to have that mindset and mentality that we're not perfect. We're still chasing improvement. But I believe what we set out to do 14, 15 months ago when people come to Valley Parade was not just talk about the atmosphere, but talk about the team that we're going to play. And I think that's one of the biggest things we've managed to do is people know that they're coming up against a good team that have won a lot of games. That's more important for me. But when you've got that backing and that support, and that's another thing for the opponent to overcome as well. And I think it certainly helped us at moments in games. It hasn't guaranteed we win a game, but at moments in games when it becomes tough for us, that support and that backing for us has been absolutely top notch, and it has definitely helped our mentality for the next action, the next moment. And there's been zero, or as close to zero, frustration and frustration, I would say, is the word I'm looking for. And from the support, towards the team, it's give the team a composure just to know that 20,000 people are behind you, and we're ready to help us win.
And also there's that respect from the opposition, probably, because they turn up now. They've seen how good this team can perform, particularly at home. Yeah. And they've seen for a long time, so straight away, whereas they might have been thinking we're playing against a team just come up a level, so let's see how they cope at this level, they'll now think, we know this team are good here, we know this is going to be a tough day.
Yeah, look, I'm sure, listen, I'm not speaking for them, I don't know what they're thinking, but there will be that element of we were a League Two team, they were a championship team, and a Premier League team not too long ago, so there will be that element in it as well. But I think it is 11 against 11. There's a balancing up in any game of football, I think, but there's still obviously a gap in other things outside of the game. But I always believe in any group of humans being able to beat another group of humans. That's a game of football. That's what I love about this sport. And I love that I believe our team and this club has taken that on, that spirit, that attitude that whoever we go up against, that we're going to give it our best. That's it. We don't go into any game feeling second best before it. And I think that's strong emotion to have, a strong feeling amongst the players, amongst the supporters, the staff as well. We just have to maintain that, but along the way there's going to be a bloody nose. We just want to put it back as far as we possibly can, if possible.
I mean, people talk about big games, coping with them, Graham, but Bradford, you're conditioned to that here, aren't you? Whether it's at Valley Parade or away from home, it's every game's a sort of big game, as you proved in the tail end of last season, the business end, and this is just sort of part of it. The next one.
That's what we wanted it to be. You know, look, in League Two, I think every opponent that played against us saw it as a big game because we were one of, if not the biggest club in that division. I don't think that's wrong to say that, but in this division, there's clubs which I've just mentioned from the Premier League, just as bigger support, big stadiums, all that sort of thing. So I think it's more of a different sort of playing field right now for us, but I just want our consistency, and I talk about it a lot, and I've consistently talked about consistency. So, because every opponent is different, every venue is different. There's loads of different data and stats around every game. But if you're constantly chasing, your head's all over the place. So what we have to focus on is performance, and where we're at our best. And I think we've just gave the players a couple of reminders yesterday and today about what underpins our game. And I think as a player, I got great comfort and clarity, I would say, not comfort but clarity, when I knew exactly what I was good at, exactly what my team was good at, and just keep performing at that level. And I think that's what we've tried to feed back to the players. But there's always that moment, because that's why the game is so good, that it can turn on its head. But I think we've responded to difficult moments so well over the last 12, 14 months. I think the characters we've had, the characters we have now, the personalities have been really strong, and I think they're sensible as well. They put things in perspective.
But back to consistency as well, that must be the most pleasing sort of thing of your home for me. You tremendous amount of wins, but even the one or two that you sort of might not have won, you played, like the Wigan game in the cup, and you were unlucky against Tranmere. You've had that consistency in performance even when you haven't won.
I agree, and that's what I mean. There's no guarantee of a result, but you can guarantee certain things in football: your work ethic, your belief, your togetherness, your understanding, your organisation, all those sort of things. They can be consistent, and they give you the best chance of winning. But it's daily habits. It's not just on a match day. It's Monday to Friday. It's how you come into work. It's how you do your gym. All those sort of things. Your warm ups. You can be consistent in all these little things, and it just spreads throughout your job. And I think the players have took that on superbly well. I think they, I wouldn't like to say, but I'm sure there's a day that if I didn't turn up, I think work would flow. I think the players would. I'm not hoping anyone takes that. I think I'm quite important, so don't don't take that out of my hands. But, no, but you know what I mean. But I do genuinely believe the players would come in and crack on with the work, and everyone do it. And that's what you want from your team. You know what I mean? I think. I can't remember what the game was, and I spoke for 40 seconds at half time, and the players went out and changed. I don't have to have these long monologues with the players for 5 minutes to get. I think they understand straight away, and I understand. I don't have to give them too much. I can just guide their nose in the right way, and they'll do the rest. And that's a good place for me as a manager to be, and we'll continue to be that, because I think we've got really good players and good people, to be honest.
That clash you mentioned at Burnley, yourself, Lee, and it's remarkable, really. Michael Duff, you had Wade Elliott, you had Martin Patterson. A lot of you've gone on, haven't you? You've had sort of successful sort of second careers in football. Well,
it was a change room. We weren't short on opinions. I'll say that. But that's what I loved about that time. There were so many good characters and people and men, and we trusted each other, but we could say what we needed to say to each other, and I think that. That can give you a good grounding. I think it tells you what your character is and your personality is, and I think it can, if you want to go into the coaching side of it or stay in football, I think those types of people, I think they have a genuine love for the game, and I think when their playing days are over, they want to stay in it. And I think there's been several good sort of examples of players from that group over 2 or 3 years of going on, and not just through football, but for other things. But there was some great guys at that club.
I was going to ask you finally. I mean, it's early days in the table, but it's got the makings of a really interesting and good season for the Yorkshire clubs. I mean, there's four of them up at the top, and you know it could be a mouthwatering one, couldn't it? Really.
Yeah, but I'm only bothered about one. To be honest, I'm only bothered about one. I don't care who we play. I just want us to do the best for our club and everyone connected to it. But I think it's good for the supporters especially. You know, we're playing local derbies. I think, you know, it's easy to get to. The emotion, all that sort of thing is great. But you know, I'm only interested in one Yorkshire club.